Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Luxoft's webinar, Building Loyalty Programs with Blockchain. We're excited to have a very interesting discussion with you today regarding the travel and hospitality industry and the impact of blockchain within that industry. Luxoft sees that as a very innovative and diverse area for not only the enterprises, but to improve customer experience across all of the users of both the travel and the hospitality industry. I thank you all for joining and welcome to the webinar. On this webinar, I am Pat Corcoran, Luxoft's Global Head for Marketing and Communications here at Luxoft, but I'm also joined by three of my astute colleagues, Max Zdanov, who's our Global Head of the Travel and Hospitality Practice, Todd Gerke, who's a Global Architect for our blockchain solutions at Luxoft, and our distinguished guest, AJ Paul, who's a Director of the Travel, Transportation, and Hospitality Practice at ISG, one of the premier research and advisory firms at a global pace. Thank you guys for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So before we begin, I'd like to just give you a quick glance of who Luxoft is. For those of you who aren't familiar with us as an organization, when you think about the broad landscape of the IT services industry, we are one of the leaders in the core areas of digital strategy, consulting, and engineering at scale. It means that we're not the lonely boutique who's only focused on blockchain, but one of the providers that's competing on a very competitive level with the tier one providers, except we have innovation in our back pocket. You can see across the map here that our locations are stretched from the nearshore piece, from the offshore piece, and also the onshore piece. So you're looking at a combination of locations that can serve each part of the world, from Sydney, Australia, all the way to Edmonton in Canada, with regards to service delivery, not only for the travel, but many of the other verticals we work in. We are a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange, always a major thumbs up, obviously, in terms of our integrity in this world. We've had a nice solid 4-year growth rate, $907 million reported in our last fiscal year of March. We have approximately 280 clients at a global level spread across all of our practices, and we're roughly 13,000 employees all over the world. You can see that we are stretched across 42 cities, 21 countries, and all 4 continents. And the key part here is not really where, but it's who. And what do I mean by that? The talent acquisition that Luxoft employs is very much based around skill sets. It's based around a talent pool that has an education background, that has a business professional background, that is far above the old school labor arbitrage model, which sits at the bottom of the pyramid for the commodity-based tasks. We do not focus on the boring sort of work because one's resume wants to read, I built HMI for an OEM. I installed the front office trading system for a tier one global bank. And in this purpose, I was responsible for building a blockchain solution for one of the travel industries that we serve. So we hire people that have experience. We aim towards that top of the pyramid. We know that the digital world is providing us with complex challenges, and you need to constantly innovate upwards on that technology stack to be successful. Hence why we have clients that have been with us for over a decade. Now, in the travel practice in particular, there are several areas that we serve. We obviously have the transport and hospitality world. We have the distribution and the technology world, and we have the aviation manufacturing focus. And obviously, these areas are all focused in several key ports for both customer experience and enterprise innovation, digital operations, sales, client services, and obviously a tech and process consulting piece that's core to the type of talent that Luxoft employs at a global level. We have the benefit of sitting in Zug, Switzerland as a headquarter, but obviously employees stretched across the world that have led us to the path of being described as an innovative provider making the change, not just simply running the change. Now that you have an understanding of who Luxoft is, I want to give you a brief peek at our blockchain practice. We are one of the founding members of the Crypto Valley Association, which is based in Switzerland, which is really a consortium of intellectual and implementation. I say that because there's engineers and there are professors that are all part of this consortium deciding upon, well, how do we set a norm for blockchain adoption at a global level? And obviously, because of the ecosystem reliance for service providers to be successful within the enterprises, we have a very strong partnership engagement piece, which stretches from the boutiques, but also all the way through to the large scales like AWS and Intel. We are one of few of the providers that are embraced in these areas because we believe there is no single solution to implement blockchain in the enterprise. It requires an ecosystem, hence why you can see a list of just 8 partners there. One example of our implementation for blockchain sits at our e-voting platform. This is implemented by the government of the Canton of Zug, and you're basically voting through a digital IG registration application. You can vote through blockchain. And I show you a different example here because obviously the word blockchain is within the hype. Today's focus will be on travel, but just so you know, we can employ this in very different areas. With that said, now that you have somewhat of a baseline of who we are and what we're going to look at in this webinar, I'd like to introduce AJ Paul from ISG. He's going to talk us through the trends within the industry and some of the disruption that's taking place that ISG sees. AJ?
Thank you, Patrick. And thank you for attending the webinar. My name is AJ Paul. I run ISG's travel, transportation, and hospitality practice. I want to just take a few minutes and talk about who ISG is and what we bring to the table. We're a research and advisory firm, and for the most part, we serve the top 60 enterprises around the world and 75 of the top 100 Fortune 100 companies. We help companies with their strategy, with their operating models and managed services, as well as give them insights into digital platforms and solutions. And we work at the strategy level for most of the organizations around the world, especially here in the travel and aviation world. And in the almost 10 to 15 years that we've been advising clients, we have generated almost $430 billion of transactions worldwide. So we are the leading firm providing advice and strategy on innovation and strategies around the world. That being said, if we move to the next slide, there are quite a few transformation activities going on in the aviation world. The top 3, of course, are NDC. NDC has taken the world by storm with IATA's new standards. Its attempt to bring standardization in distribution of airline inventory with the hopes of delivering customer experiences, enhanced customer experiences. So far, 36 airlines have bought on to the NDC platform and standards, and there are another 80 waiting in the pipeline to deliver those services. As you can see, that the very early adoption was low, but this year we're seeing a really big uptake in NDC adoption by the carriers and GDSs. Blockchain continues to be a gem that airlines and travel companies are going after. They have witnessed a significant uptake in prototypes by airlines. The idea is that blockchain can provide benefits for secure data transfers and cryptocurrency and tokenization of loyalty programs, which is what we'll talk about today. But we've also seen blockchain adoption and prototypes come out in baggage tracking and travel booking. Again, it's all about tracking data, and those are some of the most interesting use cases as well. And finally, AI. AI continues to do really well within the airline industry. With the amount of data that airlines have, applying data analytics and AI to it is yielding a lot of benefits to providing customer journey touch points and improve customer experiences. And as you'll see, that the industry is really testing a lot of AI-based solutions across processes like predictive pricing and maintenance, dynamic network scheduling, and customer service and in-flight experiences. Again, we see an uptake in that kind of use cases within the airline and travel vertical as well. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the airline world, travel world, hotels as well. And I believe Luxoft is really in the middle of it, and can't wait to hear what they have to say. If we move on to the next slide, please. And finally, this is my last slide before I hand it over to Luxoft. Blockchain in the aviation industry is in its early stages of adoption, and it is expected to grow at an increased pace. Industry is expected to witness more partnerships, and I think that's where Luxoft really comes in. They are a good partner, they are innovative, and they bring technology together along with innovation in a usable case. There are many prototypes, as we said, and the leading airlines are investing a lot of money into these prototypes. An example of that is Lufthansa and how they partnered with Winding Tree for leveraging the Life token for travel booking. And if you don't know who Winding Tree is, they've developed an open source commission-free tokenized travel distribution infrastructure for travel distribution needs for suppliers. So it's a very interesting open source blockchain-based solution. And as you'll see, the active service providers in blockchain, Winding Tree is one of them, Luxoft definitely, and then CETA and Travel by Bit. So the bottom line again is, there is investment in the space. There are use cases here. There's prototypes happening. Some of the airlines are further along than others, but blockchain is a technology and architecture that a lot of airlines are using to deploy because it provides secure transactions. That being said, I'm going to hand it over to Max from Luxoft to take up the next few slides.
Thank you, AJ. So my name is Max. I'm running travel vertical in Luxoft, and I just, with in my part, I just want to take a step back and just ask the question. So what does the global travel and transportation industry provide to the global community? So in our view, in a nutshell, this is a provision of means of transportation, accommodation, and other services with needed convenience, with a reasonable pricing. But these 2 points became extremely commoditized over the recent time, and service providers, including airlines, hotels, and other providers, try to differentiate themselves with an extended benefits where loyalty and rewards programs play a significant role. And then what is actually loyalty and rewards? So according to European Central Bank virtual currency schemas study, the loyalty and reward programs is a structured marketing strategy designed by companies to encourage their customers to continue using their services and then businesses associated with each program. So one can regard such a program as a form of centralized virtual currency, one with unidirectional cash flow, since reward or loyalty points can be exchanged into a good or service, but not into cash. So with that in mind, loyalty programs have come a long way since American Airlines, Holiday Inn, and Marriott launched the first programs back in 1980s. And across all the industries, it's estimated that there are more than 3 billion loyalty and rewards program memberships just in US alone. And although the majority of the participants do not actively participate in their memberships, these programs have grown to become again an expected perk for many travelers, and yet many in the industry see an uncertain future when it comes to loyalty and rewards. So we come to the next slide, as it been discovered as a result of multiple polls and surveys, there is a shocking level of underutilization of loyalty programs. According to one independent research conducted on 30,000 customers globally, although the average consumer is a member of at least 30 incentive programs, 76% of consumers simply do not use their shopping incentives. As well, commercial results from travel and hospitality, loyalty and rewards programs are increasingly under scrutiny, and just doing the same thing will not help driving incremental profitability, nor it will tackle the problem of unused points. Another survey carried out by incremental revenue experts, Collins and Latitude, as well as the report by Finterra Technologies, show that almost half of active frequent flyers fail to redeem their air miles because of frustration with terms and conditions of current traveler loyalty programs. So this slide below shows no travelers' concerns around traditional traveler loyalty programs. The present picture on travel and hospitality, loyalty and rewards programs is even gloomier from demographics perspective. While millennials represent the next lucrative customer base, the hospitality industry, their relationship with brand loyalty is more nuanced than that of other generations. And in many long-standing marketing methods, do not have the same effect on them. So they are, however, more technologically inclined and connected to the internet, so the opportunity to attract their attention is greater than for other age groups. And independent surveys found just 14% of millennials in the United States belong to a hotel loyalty program. So as millennials become more prevalent in travel and hospitality service providers are scrambling to find new ways to build a relationship with this all-important demographic. So on the next slide, I would like to talk a little bit of the current developments. So we are entering the era of collaboration and partnerships between travel services providers and third-party services companies that are used to redeem points. So there is an innovative partnerships emerge that help reducing liability in the books of travel services providers. Expansion of allowing expansion of third-party services networks for rewards and loyalty, and increasing visibility and transparency for traveler. So in Luxoft, we define next generation loyalty and rewards programs as a concept that that is aimed at provision of high quality superior retention, new revenue generating reward and loyalty programs that do not prone to the above mentioned root causes, and also are aimed to better reflect and promote the spirit of travel and hospitality providers branded themselves. So as in a summary, in an essence, as a response to these issues, we define key trends in the next generation loyalty and reward programs, which are prediction and personalization, loyalty and rewards that are easier to use and redeem, the next generation of rewards to new services, and the loyalty programs that allow actually to reflect the spirit of the brand itself, right? Just to name a few benefits that are presented here for both for loyalty and reward program providers and for the travelers. So, so in terms of implementation, the transparency as to the unused loyalty points and their residence in the loyalty ecosystem of the loyalty reward program providers is basically one of the key benefits, and then one of the key issues that they are having with current loyalty programs. From the other side, for customers of these programs or travelers, enhanced redemption of options given near real-time capability and interlinked programs are of great value. So basically, there are a lot more benefits that are listed here, but just, not to stop by right now, we're gonna switch to the next slide. So I would like to turn to Todd Gierke to explain few technical pieces of that puzzle.
Hi everyone. This is Todd. You know, we've been throwing around the word tokens, and I think it's important to get a better understanding. You know, by definition, tokens are a mutually interchangeable store of value, and that's a really big mouthful. But what it comes down to is that tokens are a way of exchanging value without a middleman, without a bank or any intermediary in the transaction. It's a peer-to-peer transaction. Tokens are tradable and transferable among the various parties in the network. It doesn't have to be from the customer to the airline or the hotel. It can be from the airline to the hotel. Transactions are recorded on the blockchain as tokens are earned and spent. So as we've learned with cryptocurrencies, you know, blockchain really lends itself to a safe way to trace transactions and eliminate fraud. Typically, when you define a network, there's going to be a fixed number of tokens that are issued based on the underlying services. The providers of the services on the network create a governance and rule set that define the underlying conditions where new tokens are created or minted. So it's a little bit different than points, where you've got you know, there's no limit to the number of points that can be created or handed out. With tokens, it's a fixed asset, making them more valuable and easier to transfer and easier to track. Each service provider on the network can create rules or contracts using the blockchain's smart contract mechanisms that determine how they want to exchange tokens. They can award or exchange service. They can award tokens or exchange services in the transactions. This creates a decentralized economy that isn't controlled by a single member of the network. As you see here, the customers at the center, where we used to talk about miles and points, it was the airline was in the center of the ecosystem, in that even if you were getting rewards at a hotel, oftentimes those rewards were for airline miles. And here they're completely transferable across all of the players in the network. And tokens can be used to create an economic incentive to drive the customer to new loyalty brands and keep them within the network. This is really kind of a more powerful tool than we had with rewards points. So, you know, a couple of points to the blockchain ecosystem is that the traveler becomes the center of the network. Tokens can be spent for discounts or rewards for patronage. Businesses have full visibility and control over their liability. This is a huge aspect that's been a problem with traditional loyalty and rewards programs, is the unused points end up being a liability that the provider needs to carry on their books. And this can eliminate fraud with corporate programs, which kind of brings up some other aspects. Is with a loyalty platform like this, it enables you to it enables the underlying infrastructure for a corporate travel program, and makes it a lot safer and less likely that you're going to have people claiming corporate rewards or corporate membership when they aren't members of the corporation. That kind of takes us on to the next step, which is sort of how would a flow look as we go through this ecosystem.
So so basically, this is a customer journey for Steve Hodges, a business traveler from Dallas. So he lands in New York, and immediately upon arrival, the application notifies him that he has been credited with 8,000 tokens. He chuckles and continues on his way out of the airport, while the blockchain loyalty ledger does all the needed settlements with the airline. After he picks up his luggage, he gets offered to go to his hotel via Uber or Lyft or other taxi using the just earned tokens. He uses Uber, and blockchain-powered loyalty reconciliation sends tokens to Uber as a payment for the ride service. And then Steve smoothly passes through checks at the front desk kiosk, just stops for a second before it recognizes the frequent traveler, and fills in all the check-in details automatically from Steve's traveler profile. It only takes 5 seconds to scan the info and to authorize with his fingerprint. The hotel hostess gets notified about Mr. Hodges' hotel loyalty status and welcomes him by his name and then offers complimentary glass of champagne.
Now, as Steve finds himself in the hotel room, he makes himself comfortable and checks his emails and messages. Oh, there's a message from his girlfriend saying that their good friends moved from Boston to LA a couple of weeks ago. And, well, of course, Steve wants to get the chance to say hello to them now that he's just a stone's throw away. Well, let's check the distance. 56 kilometers. Too far for a taxi. What about renting a car? Well, the magic tokens are here. Steve checks the availability of cars via the app, books an Audi model, pays the rental service with the tokens, and off he goes. After the enjoyable drive and fantastic evening with friends, Steve gets back to New York, drops the car off at the car rental place, and gets notified that the blockchain loyalty ledger debited his loyalty account with 2,300 tokens for the car rental service and credited him 500 tokens for fuel costs. Good deal, isn't it? The next morning, Steve goes into the swimming pool and spa and pays with 700 tokens from his account. Steve goes downtown by taxi. Yep, for tokens again. In the afternoon, he has a great meeting with a customer. He invites him for lunch, and again he earns 500 tokens. As usual, Steve had muted this app before the meeting so that all these notifications do not beep every time he spends or earns the tokens. He loves being serviced and notified immediately, of course, but not during business meetings.
After the business side of things are finished up, Steve stops by his favorite gift shop in New York and buys some nice things, buys some nice little things for his girlfriend and earns tokens, of course. Steve flies back home to Dallas again, where he uses his tokens in the in-flight Wi-Fi service. Infotainment during flight is a great thing, and Steve never misses a chance to enjoy it.
And hi, this is Steve Hodges. I just landed at DFW Airport, and to my pleasure, just notified that I received additional 8,000 tokens. I'm really excited because I know my girlfriend has been really wanting to go to Tahiti. So now it's time to start booking my next trip, including the flight, hotel, car rental, excursions, and other arrangements. So I look forward to my next trip using tokens. I'll hand it to Patrick to continue on with the Q&A portion of our presentation.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for a great presentation. And Steve, I hope you had a nice trip. It sounds like it was very exciting, from the bar to the spa to the Audi. Why don't we have a question for AJ, and we'll circle back with ISG on this. So AJ, you've obviously heard a pretty good use case just before of Steve's travel trip. You know, how do you guys look at the impact of the customer experience within this realm for the travel industry?
So, you know, the concept of customer journey is an interesting topic within the travel domain. It's like the holy grail, trying to figure out what the customer wants and what the customer needs, and when does it want and need arise. With the travel domain, a lot of data is collected, but a lot of the data is unstructured. And the ability to garner information from that data and make it available to systems that can then process that data and provide insights into that particular customer, that's something the airlines and travel providers like yourselves have been working for a very long time. I think blockchain, what it does is it provides a venue for marketing departments, loyalty departments to be able to glean a lot of information on travel preferences, how they like to spend their time, how they like to use those tokens, how are they spending their non-travel time in using the benefits that they've gleaned from the travel programs that they belong to. So I think this is something very unique for the travel industry. It is going to be brand new, and I think there'll be a lot of takers out there for understanding how, as a venue, as a way to understand what the customer is doing within the customer journey platform.
Max, you've been involved in the travel industry for almost your whole life. And when you think about the level of disruption that you've seen over the last 5 to 10 years, and you think about the airline industry in particular, looking at innovation but cost savings at the same time, what's your long-term view here of where this is going to evolve and the impact on the enterprise?
Absolutely. So this is a good question and kind of tricky question, because there is a lots of mixed things happening. So first of all, airlines and other services providers, there is a commonly used model that somebody owns the loyalty system, right? So that actually limits a bit the breadth of services and then the breadth of opportunities to redeem and then spend the points with different providers for the customer. So basically, because of I just mentioned somewhere in the webinar that there are new models emerging where there is a new partnerships emerging between multiple service providers, and as well as number of the third-party services that put actually customer at the center, and basically allows the customer to benefit from the first perspective from the loyalty program. So basically, this fundamental shift is started happening. Is not so big right now, but is gonna be a big change for entire industry to put the traveler in the front and center for the loyalty and then overall digital sales and service systems. So basically, this is kind of my vision on what is happening, and just continuing that, I'd love to voice the question from Maxim Ismailov. So basically, in our use case scenario presented, it was good and appealing, but sounds like traveler received lots of stuff for free. But there is the value spent by Steven has not come from has to come from elsewhere. So basically, the concept of the loyalty of the next generation loyalty system, and then especially powered by the blockchain. So there is in one of the slides we presented that first it makes the notification, and then it allows to accrue the miles immediately after consumption of the travel services. For instance, airline flight just landed, and then every network participant can actually get an access to the virtual wallet to redeem all these points or tokens, so that that could be immediately consumed. So the first one is basically the instantaneous notification. The second one is ability to grow the network. So basically, so we use just 3 multimodal services to present the benefits of the loyalty system, which is the car rental, Uber, and then something else. But in an essence, that could be a whole self-extending network for the third-party services as they join the distributed network of the third-party service providers to accrue and then to use allowing the customer to accrue and then use these points and then these tokens with ever-growing network of participants. So basically, these are underlying the benefits, and then and another thing is, you know, this technology is basically enables the customer to get this transparency, to get the immediate effect of you know, of consumption of the tokens after the travel service being consumed, and then and other benefits. But it tends to ultimately to the extreme customer satisfaction.
Thank you, Max. Well, I want to circle back to AJ, you know, for our final question here. As obviously, AJ, you're involved in, you know, not only advising enterprises, but obviously working on areas like governance and implementation strategy. How do you see the effect of blockchain in this industry from your current, you know, client base and the industry itself?
Well, you know, blockchain is an interesting entrance into the technology landscape for the travel industry. When we're outsourcing and we're looking for providers, a lot of the travel clients are looking for keep the lights on type of transactions. With blockchain, you have to look for experts, and you have to look for providers and suppliers who are leading edge, who have the credibility to talk about what's happening in the marketplace, why it's happening, what are the pros and cons, and what are the safety nets that that provider can provide that others can't. So it's simply not about talking about whether the provider has the domain expertise, say in reservations and stuff like that. It's a little bit more than that. It's talking about not only having the domain expertise that Max has just alluded to in the conversation that we just had, but it's also understanding from the team, the blockchain team, how you integrate travel, domain expertise, and blockchain together. And I think that's the difference. So the ability to go out and get those services from the marketplace, it's a very small market. And I think with Luxoft, you have a team that understands the domain and understands the architecture for blockchain. So those are the kind of companies that will get pulled in to these kinds of deals. They will not be keep the lights on outsourcing type deals. They'll be innovation type transactions.
Well said. Well, if there are any more questions from the audience, I think we can come to a conclusion on this webinar. And we look forward, ladies and gentlemen, to continuing our conversation with you across the board: travel, hospitality, transportation, and obviously blockchain's impact not only on the loyalty side, but on the industry as a whole. I'd like to personally thank AJ Paul from ISG, one of the leading firms responsible for research and advisory services, particularly within this industry, and obviously my colleagues at Luxoft. What a great discussion, what a great presentation, and this will certainly not be our last discussion around this particular topic in this growing and diverse digital disruptive industry. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.